Today, we are going to talk about how to handle the trade over the phone. This is becoming a bigger issue, or it has become a bigger issue over the last couple of years with COVID. We have really, in these last 2 years, redone the process of how a lot of people buy cars. We've always had people calling and wanting to get their trade values over the phone. But now I think they're doing it more than ever before. We've conditioned them now to buy cars over the phone. They've been conditioned to do more shopping online. The only good thing for us is we are also conditioning them to not have rebates, subventive financing in some situations, and to pay more for the cars, which is good for us. I think most dealerships and most dealers and general managers that I talk to are telling me that they're making more money. Grosses are great. They don't have inventory. But it's a catch-22. I do believe that once you get inventory, grosses are going to come down, but at least we are learning how to create gross, and that is really, really, really good. We're learning how to sell without the crutches of having something like a rebate to throw at people. Will this all come back? Don't know. I think it will, but not to that extent. But today we're going to talk about the trade and how to handle the customer that calls the dealership and wants to get a trade value over the phone. I can tell you that if I were in the market for a car and I had a trade, I probably would do that too. I might email, who knows what I might do. But let's look at a couple of facts here. And these facts are changing. But right now they're telling us that the average person calls about 3 dealerships before leaving their home and shopping. 5, 8, 10 years ago, that was more like 5 dealerships. Now people are doing more research on the internet and they're making less calls. Also, the amount of visits is down to about 1.2 dealerships per visit to find the car they like, which means people are truly narrowing down exactly what they want, and they're coming to the dealership. Now, always remember that when they call the dealership, they're calling for multiple reasons. The first one is to get information. That's going to be pricing, availability, colors and options that you have. The second reason they're calling is to size you up, to see how you interact with them over the phone. If you come across too aggressive, too pushy, well, guess what? They are not going to come to your dealership. They just don't feel comfortable. So understand that, especially when it comes to the trade. So if they call you and they want to get information on the trade and you start trying to, let's say, blow them off, and we're going to get into that in a second, you're going to lose them and they're not going to visit your dealership. The number one mistake that we believe that is made by salespeople on handling the trade over the phone is you have the wrong goal. And I know this is going to seem off whack to you when I say this, but what is the wrong goal? And the wrong goal is to set an appointment. I know up front that doesn't seem right. The right goal is to get them into the dealership. And those are 2 totally separate things. I could have 10 people call me and make 10 appointments and have 1 person show up. I'd rather have 3 people call me and have 3 people show up at the dealership. So our goal is to get people into the dealership and doing this the right way. If they have a trade and they call 3 dealerships, they're looking for information. They're looking for price. The worst thing that you can do, and I'm looking over here at my notes, is when somebody calls the dealership and they come right out and they say, hey, I've got a trade, but I want to know what my trade is worth. And the worst thing you can do is say, well, we have to see your trade first. Listen, if I had to come in, I wouldn't have called you. I'm calling you to get this information so that I don't have to come in. Now, let's think about, as a consumer, why am I making this call? Well, because you know what? If the value you're giving me is so low, it's not worth it to me. I'm not going to come in. Also, keep in mind that some people are just dipping their toes in the water. They don't know what their vehicle is worth. They're smart. They know their payoff. They know what payments are. If some people owe $15,000 on their car and you start talking about giving them $12,000, $13,000, well, you know what? Not only are they not coming to your dealership, but they're not going to buy a car. So you pulled them out of the market by giving them bad information. The mistake of having you say, you have to bring the car in is it's not inspiring. It's not unique. It's not catching anybody off guard. And it very rarely works. And then, we try to get creative and tricky and all that kind of stuff. Let me give you a couple scenarios that I've written down. Scenario number 1, we'll say Tom calls 3 dealerships. They all say we have to see the car first. Where does Tom go first? Likely he's going to go to the dealership that is closest to him. So if everybody is saying the same thing, Tom is going to go to the dealership that is closest to him. Let's take scenario number 2. Tom calls 3 dealerships. Two dealerships say we have to see it first. The third dealership says right out, we can give you $15,000. Which does Tom visit first? Well, guess what? He probably visits none of them. Why? Because that $15,000 number might not be what he wants. So now he's out of the market. And like I said a few minutes ago, you've driven Tom off the market. He might keep calling. He's going to call and call until he can get that $16,000, $17,000 that he wants. Third scenario, Tom calls three dealerships. All three dealerships say, well, we can give you $15,000. Which one does he go to? He goes to none of them. Why? Because he got the same number from all three. He's now going to call a fourth dealership and start grinding them and saying, hey, I can get, $15,000 here. Can you give me $15,500? And we've all had those people call us and ask us, hey, I can get this at this dealership. Can you give me a few dollars more? And I'll come in to see you. None of these are great strategies. None of these drive people to your dealership in the numbers that you want. And I hear this all the time. We make mystery shop calls all the time to dealerships. And it is amazing. It is amazing what some salespeople are saying. So in order to get them into the dealership, you got to catch them off guard. You got to let them know that you really want their trade. The old school thought was get them off trade, get them to talk about the car that they want to buy. Well, guess what? They already know what they want to buy. What do they want to talk about? They want to talk about their trade. That's what's getting them excited. The most important thing is to drive excitement in this process. So when somebody calls your dealership, and however they phrase it, they all have different ways of phrasing, I'm interested in this car, but I have a trade first. What do you think it's worth? You got to get excited. That sounds great. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we are desperately looking for cars. Please tell me what you have. And he says, well, I have a 2018 Toyota Camry. Fantastic. Please tell me it's blue. Please tell me it's blue. No, it's not blue. It's white. Great, because we have plenty of blue ones in stock. White is perfect. You got to get them to think that their color is the perfect color. How many miles are on the car? 45,000 miles. Fantastic. How is the interior? Interior is clean. Great. How's the exterior? Well, it's got the normal dings and dents of a 5-year-old car, 4-year-old car. Don't worry about that. Are the tires in good condition? Just replaced them a year ago. Fantastic. Any check engine lights coming on? No check engine lights coming on. Is your maintenance up to date? Maintenance is up to date. Fantastic. You've got to get these people excited over the phone. Remember, you're not trying to set an appointment. You're trying to drive them to your dealership. Now comes the most important part. Now you got to start talking numbers, because again, let's be honest with everybody. If I now say to Tom, well, when can you bring the car in? Well, now I've deflated him. He wants a number. So now what I might ask Tom is something like this. Tom, obviously you've done your research. You obviously have a figure in mind. May I ask you what that is? And Tom says, yeah, I've done my research. I think my car is worth $16,000. Well, guess what? Now we got the first number out in the open. We got $16,000. What you don't want to do is say, well, I don't know if it's really worth $16,000. What you don't want to do is ask them, how did you come up with that number? It doesn't matter. It's their number. See, now I would say, well, you know what? That number doesn't sound unreasonable or unrealistic to me. You don't have to say I'm just a salesman. To me, when could we see the car? Remember, I want this person in the dealership. Now let's consider this. He's called two other dealerships. Let's go all scenarios. One says you got to bring the car in. The second one says it's worth 12 grand. Now I just let him believe that maybe his car's worth 16 grand. Where's he going to go? Is he going to go back to the guy that offered 12, or the one that says, I don't know what it's worth? You got to come and look at it. No, he has to come to me. Now, remember, it's Tom's number. It's the customer's number of $16,000. Now, here's where this gets unique. And it's a question. And I know how most of you are going to answer this question. Will we give Tom $16,000 for his car? And most of you are going to say no. But the answer is yes. We will give Tom $16,000 for his car. Well, our car retails for $35,000. We've got a couple of other add-ons we've put onto it that brings it up to $38,000. And yes, we will give him $16,000 for his car. Now, Tom's going to say, well, you're not giving me a discount on the car. No, we can't. Would you like a discount? Yes. Well, we'd like a discount on your car. We can't give you retail for your car and sell us our car at wholesale. So that's where everybody gets confused, because we know those numbers that customers coming up with is a retail number. They've probably gone to kbb.com. They've put in all the information. They probably exaggerated it a little bit. They're looking at, clean retail value, and they're getting this big inflated number. And that's a retail number. So again, will we give them retail for their car? Absolutely. In a retail for retail scenario, we will give them retail for their vehicle. Is Tom going to get mad? Could. Have we done anything unethical? And no, we're still going to give him $16,000. Look, here's the price of our car. $38,500. I told you your car was worth $16,000 minus $16,000, and here's your net number. Can I get you some payments? And that's going to drive more people to the dealership. So make sure that you are consistently getting excited about what's going on. Okay, let me just look at my notes here. We're not going to go much longer today. Okay. We're all in the market right now to get cars. And the beauty behind this scenario and people calling about a trade is that we're getting a car in return. I'm a huge believer in selling cars out of service. I love that. We've talked about that on previous shows. Why? Because in today's environment, I get something in return. Cars are worth a lot of money today. People are selling their cars to dealerships. Perfect scenario. My girlfriend has a car. It's a lease. The lease is not up until April. Well, we are going to get out of the lease this weekend because her car is worth so much money that it's worth it. And the beauty is that the dealership is going to get a car that's 2.5 years old with 26,000 miles on it. Okay, I got a lot of you are popping in questions here, but let me get through a couple more things. It's an easy way to get this. Okay, don't be afraid to do this. You've got to have the right positive mindset. Always use unique verbiage and dialogue when you do this. Again, drive them to your dealership. Do not negotiate over the phone. We're not going to negotiate the price of the car. Why? It's their number. You'll be in a negotiated situation if you give your number. And do not say, well, let me get your VIN number. Let me get with my used car manager, and I'll get back to you. As soon as I hang up, I'm going to call somebody else. I'm in the mode right now of calling around, okay? Keep something else in mind, which I really like about this fact that's on my notes, is you're competing against unskilled salespeople. You do realize that most salespeople have no true skill sets. Most salespeople don't train like you're probably training. Most salespeople don't train like professional athletes. I would absolutely call other dealerships and see how they do this. I'd call dealerships in your area. I'd call dealerships outside of your area and see how they handle it. Maybe, just maybe, there's another approach out there that we haven't discussed that might work, and you might want to hear that idea as well. Always be prepared at all times for whatever the customer is going to say, and make sure that you absolutely practice your craft here. This is essential. I've been watching some of your questions come in. I want to jump to some of those because it might get us in another area here. So what's this first question? Sales room. Do you think it would be better to only discuss their trade during the phone up if they bring up that they have a trade? In other words, make the whole call about their trade. Oh, absolutely. If they want to talk about their trade is driving them to the dealership. Again, I go back to this. What you've obviously done your research and homework. You probably have a figure in mind. What number were you thinking? We think our car's worth $16,000. That is going to drive them to your dealership. Period. End of discussion. Mac wants to know, do you think it's a good idea to ask the caller where they got their figure from? No, I don't. I don't care where they got their figure from. I don't care if they pulled it out of the air. It makes absolutely no difference to me. The most important thing is it's their figure, and that's what's driving to the dealership. So many times I've seen and heard salespeople ask that question. Customer states a number, and the salesman says, "Well, that does seem a little bit high." Are you trying to drive them away from your dealership? All right, whoever's logged in as Superstar wants to know, are you in favor of giving callers on site, unseen figures over the phone. Yeah, because I'm using their figures. And remember, it's based on their information. If that car comes in and the tires need to be replaced and there is a dent in the car, you can very easily say, look, when we spoke on the phone, you told me that the tires were in good condition. You told me that these are obviously not in good condition, and that's going to affect our trade appraisal. Roger's asking, don't you think if we make them think they have a premium color on their trade, we'll have to give them more than if it was an off color? I want to switch colors to get them excited. Is the car silver? Yes. Oh, fantastic. We're looking for silver cars. That's the most popular and easiest to sell. Is your car silver? No, it's blue. Oh, thank goodness. We struggle with silver cars. I don't know what it is in our market. Blue is fantastic. It's a perfect color. Drive them with excitement into your dealership. Sam Scale, what would you say if the caller says they would rather I give them a figure on their trade first before they tell me what they think it's worth? That's a good question, Sam. So let me rephrase what I think. He wants to know, I'm assuming, is if I ask the customer, what figure did you have in mind? And they say, well, we want to know what your figure is first. How would I do that? I would probably, and I'm shooting off the top of my head here, I'd probably say, well, have you been to kbb.com? Because pretty much we're giving what kbb.com says the cars are worth. Cars are worth a ton of money right now. You know they've already been to kbb.com. If they're asking this question, they've done their research. So you're just confirming the number they already have. All right, let's do one more question. We'll wrap up here. Patsy wants to know, what if the customer gives me a figure that I know is way out of range? Should I still say that it doesn't sound unreasonable? I would, Patsy. I mean, look, if I knew the cars with 15 grand and you told me 20 grand, I'd say, well, I gotta be honest with you. To me, that doesn't seem unreasonable. Now, I know that some of you are thinking we're driving these people into the dealership on false pretenses, but it's their number. They're the ones that said they think it's worth 20 grand. I just said, to me, it doesn't sound unreasonable to me. When the car comes in, I mean, that car better be in a mint condition. I mean, if you run the Carfax report and there's problems with it, there's all kinds of ways. But remember, you're dealing on a retail for retail basis. Most of the time, the number they're giving you is going to be from kbb.com. That's probably where they got the number. Or it's their payoff. Because that's what a lot of people are doing. They're shopping their payoff amount because they want to get out of the car. They don't want to put down any more money. Again, let me wrap up in this sense. Make it fun for the customer. Make it exciting. Don't be negative on the call. If the customer says, you ask them, how are the tires? And you say, well, they say they're probably going to need to be replaced here in the near future. I'd say, don't worry about it. Please don't replace the tires until you bring it to us. We can get them cheaper. We can replace the tires once we buy the car from you. Don't even worry about that. Again, your goal is not to make an appointment. Your goal is to drive them to the dealership. And folks, I'm telling you, in today's used car market, these cars are worth so much money. And some of the times these people are going to come in saying they want $16,000 and your used car manager is going to praise it for $18,000. Just get them in the dealership.